I consider myself a sound artist, although I also do have a background in electroacoustic composition, which still is very present in my work. I primarily work outside the concert hall in public space, although, and I do site-specific multi-channel sound installations that respond to architecture or certain kind of structures that I perceive there. However, at the same time, I also have more and more increasingly in my practice been thinking about how we can bring everyday experiences, auditory experiences that we otherwise may ignore into gallery spaces and therefore kind of increase the amount of attention they get. The visual, I mean, most of my pieces, in fact, actually all of my pieces at this point have either a visual or sculptural component, sometimes a tactile or kinetic component, which I feel is very important for drawing people into sound. So yes, what's being presented at the gallery is a 4-channel sound composition, but also a series of photographs. I may be one of the only artists who's presenting an older piece because I was very interested to present it in this context. And the piece is from 2018. It was created, I had the opportunity hosted by the Interfaces Network and supported by the Goethe Institute to spend a month on Cyprus, in Nicosia to be precise. And so Nicosia is a city which is divided. There is the Turkish region and the Greek region. And running through this, there is a demilitarized zone. It's been this way for over 60 years. And I decided to take this as a focus of kind of an acoustic investigation. And spent time making recordings on both sides of this space. It is a space that is rarely seen. You have the feeling that it's behind the building or behind the barricade, but you rarely actually get to see it. There's only one place that's still accessible to civilians. So I spent the time making recordings on both sides of the border, and also and also doing photography, and decided to reconstruct a space in which all of your information is through the auditory, because inside the space you would not be able to see either the Turkish or the Greek side, but you would hear both. And that is the case on either side as well, that you can't see the other side, but you always have auditory information. And so that's what the piece is about. And that was, pretty much my working process. The installation of it at the gallery there, I'm very pleased with, because I think there is this aspect of the border, suddenly this literal green line that the visitors have to step over to see the photographs and engage with this world. I was very pleased with that. I think a dystopia is generally, I think of it as fiction, inherently something fictional, or that cannot be believed. And so we are increasingly confronted with images and circumstances through media that we cannot believe. And borders certainly belong to that category. I mean, there are many people who their only experience of borders is through, news, where it can be extremely distressing, but we have actually no real sense of it. In this case, I mean, it was very interesting for me to be there, because suddenly for me, it had this dystopic quality, but for the people who live there, it's absolutely normal circumstances. They live their lives, and it's absolutely normal. I mean, anyone who would go from living in an extremely rural, isolated environment to like New York City would also see that as seeming like a work of fiction, like a dark work of fiction potentially. I mean, just looking at the congestion and the amount of stimuli that has to be blocked out just to survive there. Such an aggressive acoustic environment. But yeah, I think that we tend to have this perception of borders as having this dystopic quality, this especially situations that tend to arise there, whether it be horrible situations that we're seeing all over the world right now, or a situation like that in Nicosia, which it is how it is. It's been that way 60 years. It's not like there's a real active emergency there, actually. I'm very sad I can't be there, but at the same time, very pleased with how the piece was installed, and kind of took on this new context through the way it's installed and through the association with this theme. So yeah, I think that's basically it. Thank you so much.